Well, hello. Yeah, I was running behind. Oh, Lord, busy week. Busy, busy, busy. Hello, everybody. How are y'all? See who all gets here, shows up. All right, let me go back through these comments right quick. Well, how are you, Steve?
I'm here.
You seem a little quiet tonight. Uh, hot Mississippi. Yeah, we got a rain shower a little while ago. It's cooled off a little bit now, but it's still kind of hot. All right, looks like we got Miss Sharon, Jeff, Scott, Victor, Chris from the Land Down Under. How are you? Vince, Mr. Jim Pitts, Stephen, Samuel, Cody. How are you, Cody? Been using your equipment today. Robbie, Mark, Gillette is here. Mr. Richard Manny, Old Guy Designs. How are you? Dale, Kevin Rich, Chuck Peterson, Mark, Big Rigs is here. All right, it's getting to be a lot of people. Cajun Woodworking, how are you? Lindsay G, yeah, I'm gonna mess that one up. But yeah, uh, how are y'all? And yes, I was running behind. Brandy made me go eat, and then I got here to shop and had some issues getting everything powered up. So I was
Well, I'm not
cutting it.
even in the shop, so
I was cutting it really close. Well, I'm not really set up to do it anywhere else, unless I do it on a laptop. So, uh,
honestly, it's easier to do it from here than the shop half the time.
yeah.
But I mean, it's
So,
hardwired here. It's air conditioned here.
yeah, my air conditioners, since that little rain cloud we got, I'm down to 80 in the shop here. So it's allowing my little mini split a chance to catch up a little bit. So that's good.
Yeah, we're having we're having a pretty hot weekend here. I mean, the temperatures in the 90s plus dew points up around 70s, so the real feel is 100 plus. And so I working with that laser pecker 5, just like I'm bringing it down to the basement shop this weekend. I'm not going to be sucking all my cold air, well, not even cool air out of the shop. I'm going to leave it sealed up, let this kind of heat wave pass. And so I've been working on that in the basement. But yeah, so I decided to just jump in the office for this.
Yeah, there's your one right there.
Yeah.
Hey, they're only ever so effective when it gets this hot. I will say that, or at least mine is. I think I misjudged the size that I needed. I think I should have went up another ton or so. But they say if you get too big of an air conditioner, then you're going to wind up with moisture problems. So
Yeah,
I don't know.
possibly. It's definitely a balance. But yeah, it's something I should do out in the shop, but just there's other priorities right now. And I know I've been saying that for a while, but it's just the case, you know.
Yeah, stuff gets in the way for sure. But yeah, well, how other than that, how are things going with you? Hadn't really talked to you a whole lot. I've sent you a few pictures and all that back and forth. Oh, things. You got anything cool? Any new toys to play with that you can talk about?
Uh no, nothing new that's shown up. I've had a lot of emails. I don't know if I don't know how much people want me to start talking about NordVPN and um, what was the other one?
Better life,
Better
better
health,
health.
better health. What? Yeah, no.
Yeah.
It's kind of funny. I know some of these places are starting to plan for the second half of the year, ramping up, trying to get it. I mean, they'll start negotiating now for the Christmas season and such. But I've had it seems like they come in waves, right? And so there's um, been some legit manufacturers reaching out, and I've talked with a few of them, and I've been quite honest with a lot of them. I said, I'm not going to inundate my time or my viewers with excessive reviews. So I'd love to work with you, but it's going to have to wait a few months. To others that just, like we've talked about it before, Amazon resellers and other things. Um, so there's some
Yeah.
opportunity there. I think maybe we talked briefly about the the X Tool M1 Ultra last week. They have they've been talking with me about it. Um, it sounds like they want to send me one, but until I get that tracking information, um, I don't know. So it looks interesting. It's definitely more of a your traditional crafter. It's a multi-purpose machine. Has two modules on it. You can swap between a vinyl cutter and a roller cutter and a um, inkjet printer and a laser module, things like that, and then pens and such for plotters. It looks interesting. Wouldn't mind playing with it a bit. Not my normal wheelhouse per se, but yeah, it would be interesting to see that. And also, I think you and I have both confirmed another
Mm-hmm.
item. Did yours get confirmed?
Well, it's supposed to be coming Monday, but yeah, I mean, from what I'm hearing, and it should go through. So I think we're safe on that one. They seem pretty legit. Cody is asking if you got the package he sent you. Are you getting something?
Um,
You getting something I don't know about over there, Cody? Bro, I mean, come on now.
not yet. I think I got if you haven't signed up for and this is for everybody, the postal service gives you like a daily digest email of what's coming in your mail and also packages that are in transit to you. So you get a daily email on that. I think that might be Monday or Tuesday is when that when I think if I'm looking at it right, Cody. So I haven't gotten it yet, but yeah, I saw there was a package coming. So yeah, the other thing is I'd actually posted a couple things on the Bamboo A1 Mini that I've been playing with, and in doing so, apparently got in touch with one of their marketing people, and now they want to work with David and I. So it sounds like the
Sweet.
two of
Okay.
us are going to be starting out with the A1C.
A1C.
So that'll be kind of fun. Um, Unfortunately, mine is I do have tracking information for that. It's going to come midweek, about the time I take off for a work trip for a few days this week. So um, it'll be it'll be sitting here waiting for me when I get back next weekend. But yeah, so that'll be kind of fun. I actually have a couple of projects that I need to work with it for laser items. So we'll jump right on that. It's going to have that 4-color combo. It's a little side octopus thing, but yeah, I'm excited. I have to play with the mini for a past week and a half. I think that larger one is going to be fun, and of course, we'd all love to see the X1 carbon with the AMS module on top. That would be really nice, but we'll
Well,
see.
I just printed me another part a while ago, and I'd be doggone, I done laid it down somewhere. But yeah, according to what they told me, the A1 should be shipping, or I should get the codes Monday. Is what she told me because it was late Friday when we were exchanging emails, and so it'll be Monday before I can finish it up. But yeah, I'm looking forward to that. Like I said, I like my Ender 3, but like this morning I went to use it, and of course it's been sitting for a little while and had to run through some calibrations and stuff. So from what I've been told, the bamboos aren't quite as finicky when it comes to that kind of stuff. So we'll see. I
Yeah,
do know that the ender, it works, but you have to know how to keep it adjusted and how to get everything just right to really be able to crank stuff out.
yeah, you
So
can. It has a few things on the startup you can check on or off, such as the bed leveling, as well as kind of the flow meter, and then it has like a little routine where it purges the nozzle, cleans it off. So it it'll be pretty cool. I think you'll enjoy it. And question on the A1C, it's the A1 combo is what that is, and that's the printer along with the material management system. So you can have 4 spools going into the printer, and then it can do the color changing. So
yeah, the email
yeah,
they sent me said specifically A1C, but when you
hmm
go to their website, they call it the A1 combo. So
acronyms, gotta love them.
yeah. Hey, at least it's not like some name that doesn't make sense. Kind of like what Brian was saying that you were playing with tonight. Uh, oh, and there's another one right there too.
Yeah.
I'm sure he would love Mr. Cool to reach out to him, especially if
Well,
they included some free installation or something. Steve would be like, "How many videos you need?"
I don't know. I think at that point I'd probably just want to pay for it.
Yeah,
Depends on how some of these companies they're pretty outrageous what they expect um, for their stuff. I don't know if anybody caught it, but you put out a couple videos this week on starting your YouTube channel as well as starting your business, and you touched a little bit on the bringing in the equipment, doing the reviews, and it's I mean we're grateful for it and we appreciate it, but there's a fair amount of work with that, and then some places will expect quite a bit of extra along with that, and so yeah, especially as you get older, time definitely gains more value to you, and
yeah.
we're both we're both there where
Well,
we value our time. So
yeah. Extreme Elements is saying that I'm guessing they probably have went from one to the other. We're gonna said it's gonna be a lot more printing, less tinkering. So and that's kind of where I'm at. I mean, yes, the bamboo is significantly more expensive than the ender, but I have done everything I can do to my ender to kind of speed it up and make it do a better job, and it does okay. But there's just some days you can't quite get everything right, and
yeah,
it really aggravates me. So
yeah, I think you'll even with your ender running at it, well dialing in and everything. I think you'll appreciate the simplicity as well as the speed that you'll get out of the ender or the bamboo. So
yeah, somebody mentioned it earlier, guys. If you're in here watching the video, if you don't mind, please hit that thumbs up button. Uh, we are still trying to grow things, of course, as usual, as always. And Brian brings up an interesting point. Says I should cross post to my other channel. But Brian, yes, I have started another channel for those of you that aren't aware. It's more or less just going to be some around the house stuff. Just me and Brandy cutting up, doing outdoor stuff. I'm going to move the bee content, the non-shop related stuff. I'm going to try to keep all of that on the other channel, and then just keep this for shop related stuff. To kind of I want to see if that helps with some of the things that I do as far as not confusing the audiences. So if you hadn't already, just go check that video out. There should be links on my YouTube page to it. It's just at the Clecklys, and that's going to be where our just general, like, I don't know, banter and stuff with me and Brandy and some of the videos are going to be. But yeah. So if you hadn't already though, hit the like button on this video because I can't really see who's hit what. I try not to beat you guys up with that, but it does help, and we do appreciate it. So yeah, if you smash that thumbs up button for me and Steve or both, or however you want to do it, that would be awesome. But yeah, if you hadn't found the other channel, feel free to go check that out. There's going to be some exclusive content that's not going to be available on the Shack. That'll be over there. So we'll see how it goes. Yeah, I was fixing to grab that link, but I didn't.
Well, I just
Thanks.
put it in. I don't have a link on my video for it, so I figured I'd put it in my chat for people watching on my channel in
Yeah.
case they want to go check that out. Um, yeah. I don't do. I see, and that's the thing is, speaking of things like a Mr. Cool review, there are certain things that I just kind of gloss. I don't. I don't record. I don't put out there just because I feel like it's drifting away um, from my channel's core of workshop. And that one would probably fit in more, being it's a workshop AC thing. But so I don't know. I haven't done it in the past. I guess if I get the urge to again, maybe I'll look at that. But I will drop in a few things as long as I can keep them tangential to workshop and laser things. So um,
Yeah.
but good on you. I mean, that's fun. You'll have another outlet for that, and keep it. Hopefully, keeps people happy. You can get enough traction on that channel to keep it worthwhile, and then the people that don't want to see B content can just hang out at your Clack Shack channel.
Yeah. Well, like I said, there's other things too. I mean, a lot of the stuff that I do around here, people ask me all the time, "Hey, I'd really love to see more of the gardening. I'd love to see more of, what it is that y'all do, just like day to day." And so I want to be able to provide that, but you know, not muddy the water too much on the Shack channel. So that's the reason I decided to go ahead and start that one up, because the closer I get to retirement, the more, the home improvement or the gardening or whatever, the more that stuff is going to be out there. So I figured if I'm going to have a time to do the content in another 14 months, I might as well go ahead and start getting at the groundwork laid for that. And
Mhm.
Brandy's also mentioned she wouldn't mind doing some of her, stuff, her own stuff. And so this way that gives her an outlet too, that she doesn't have to worry about, uh, you know, not knowing lasers. Because that's the biggest thing with her getting in these videos is she really doesn't. I mean, she doesn't come out here and mess with the lasers a whole lot. She'll help me do things, but she's not really trying to learn how to mess with the lasers or anything.
It's because she doesn't home them, right?
Well, that was a big problem. That matter of fact, that board's still over there because yeah, what are you gonna do with it? It's a
Hey,
deep burn.
you're gonna make it a thinner one.
Yeah. Well, I don't have any way of planing it unless I put it in a CNC, and we're not fixing to go through that much trouble.
Well, yeah, Um, but yeah, I do have a question there, and people, we're not just going to ramble about other stuff. If you have questions, drop them in, um, and we'll try to get to them. Aaron's asking a quick question: how food safe are engraved chopping boards? Uh, it's depends on who you talk to. Typically, if you can avoid using the engraved side, you're better. The issue comes in that you're creating a pocket where food and debris and whatnot can soak in there, and then it sits for a while, and that's where it goes bad. It gets rancid. So it's really more of like the maintenance of it. It becomes more of an issue there, in that if you can't clean it out, it can get rancid, and then the next food you put on there can be a problem. Or it also can be what type of finish you put on there and whether that cures and has any chance to contaminate your food. Um, a lot of people don't care, or don't know. So generally, what we try to recommend to our customers, because I know we've talked about this in the past, is have like your decoration side and then your use side. If they really want it to be a dual purpose board, and so you try to put the engraving on the side that they can display, whereas if they would flip it over and use the other side when they're actually going to use it, that's how it's going to be. Also going to depend on what kind of food you put on there. I mean, if you're just going to put some a charcuterie tray out with some cheeses and cured meats and such, it's not really going to do a whole lot to it. You just kind of wash it off when you're done, rinse it off, re-oil it every as often as needed. It's going to be fine. But I, out of just an abundance of caution, because you're going to get the one customer that's not going to listen and not going to do the oil treatments, not going to clean it as much. It's a good idea to maybe put on there that this engraved board is meant for decoration purposes only, um, and should be oiled regularly and all these other things. It's kind of the disclaimer that gives you a veil of I told them not to do that. Um, but yeah, if At the very least, I would say give them a usable side and an engraved side. You got any thoughts on that?
No, I mean that's about the same thing. I mean, I tell people, first of all, if you're going to pay me to engrave something on it, you're probably not going to want to be, cutting your onions and stuff on that part because you're going to mess it up. So I tell them, hey, the way it works is this way: you get a nice looking cutting board when it's laid out on the counter being presented. It looks nice, but you flip it over, and that's the side that you do the work on. Because you will. I mean, you will destroy the engraving if you chopping onions on it or something. So typically speaking, people aren't gonna, they don't want to destroy the personalization, so they will use the other side.
Hmm.
And a lot of times, if it's something that I'm making that's like a breadboard or something like that, and they're like, "Hey, I want it finished with polyurethane or whatever." If I put anything on there that could slightly be toxic, I'm going to engrave the back of it. This piece is intended for decorative purposes only. Blah blah blah, and it's going to be engraved into the cutting board. And I have done some of those. I've did some glue ups before, and engraved it to the back of the cutting board so that if they did, like you said, if they did eat off of it and eat polyurethane, then my thing is you told me it was strictly decorative. It was not going to be functional.
Right.
Oh, and that way too, if they like sell it to somebody else or give it as a gift, you don't have to worry about did that message, make the trip.
Sure.
Da, 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 da. Somebody's asking about my name. Well, my last name is Clackley, and because everybody just started calling me Clack, that's what I have been called in law enforcement now for the past 25 or so years. It's stuck, and so very few people here in my hometown know me by anything other than that. And of course, this is a shack, so this is the Clack Shack. So yeah, that's how that happened.
You know, I don't know how many shacks have AC though.
Well, I didn't say it was a like unair conditioned shack. I just said it's a shack. Hey, the pictures of when I first started working out here. Uh, I mean, you've seen those.
Hmm.
It was much different. Hang on a minute. All right, here we go. All right, there you are. That is what it looked like when I first started doing work in here. So that was it right there. Them old wood heater, which there's only so much time you can spend chopping firewood until you just get tired of it. But that
Well,
that
that's
has actually been on the top right there since I did my remodel. And that's right after I did the remodel a few years ago. So I actually added that wall in the door. But that's what it used to look like. That's the original Clack Shack right there, baby. So there you go. Now you know.
see. But firewood heats you twice.
Yeah, it gets you hot when you're cutting it and hot when you're burning it. But then you got to
Right?
clean the ashes up too.
Like three
Ah,
times practically. Then, yeah.
yeah, I used to, dude. I would get in here and start a fire, and by the time the fire got warm, I was done. I was going in the house, and so I
Yeah.
was like, yeah, but back in the day, that's all I had. It was either that or freeze to death. So, but when I first started doing actual videos out here, I, I didn't even really have. I don't even think I may have just. I had just put that wall up and just put the door in, but I kept the door open most of the time. So I didn't get air conditioning until what, last year? Yeah.
Yeah.
If you look back, and the way you can tell is look back at some of my old videos from like June of a year and a half ago, and you'll notice that there's like sweat like everywhere, and most of the videos I had sweat running down my face. That was because I had fans, and I had to turn the fans off in order to do video because if not, it sounded like I was standing next to a helicopter during liftoff. So yeah, we've come a long way. So
Well, yeah. No, I'd be borderline sweating it out if I had been spending the weekend out out in the main shop, sucking all that air out, and replacing it with the outside air, and then trying to do it tonight. I'd be probably sweating right now. So
yeah. Sup, Valley Forest? How are you, sir? And those of y'all don't know, it's Eric over at Valley Forest. The man, the myth, and the legend.
On the other end, that's probably part way of a good weight loss program. Working in a hot shop like that.
A good way to get a heat stroke is what it is.
Well,
Have a stroke.
yeah, you can stay hydrated, but still be sweating a lot.
Yeah. Yes, extreme elements. I am still working. I got 14 months left, and then I get to retire. The one thing about it is, in law enforcement, the bad thing about it is you don't make hardly any money, but man, the retirement's righteous. Even though it's not going to be a really big check, the day I retire in 14 months, I'll start drawing a check, and it will last as long as me and my wife do. So, uh, and I'm going to be full time out here doing this. That's all I'm going to do is this. I'm gonna quit completely, retire.
I'll forget about ever keeping up with you when that day comes.
Yeah. Well, that is unless Secret Service comes a calling, because I hear they in need of some planners.
Uh, yep. Um, another one down your neck of the woods. Joe, hello from Mobile. I have an old 3018 CNC running a 7-watt diode looking for an upgrade between S1 for size or F1 for speed and versatility, unless better idea.
That's like apples and oranges right there. The S1 and the F1 are that's apples and oranges.
Yeah, so the size is a big thing. The F1, well, it has about a 4-inch square working area, and it does have the dual lasers, but your cutting is going to be really limited, even with the 10-watt on wood material, just because those Galvo lasers, they've got the beam that kind of gets angled. It doesn't have air assist, so your cutting ability on that's going to be limited. The S1 is definitely going to be bigger, and depending on what module you get, if you go all the way up to the 40-watt, you're definitely going to be able to do a lot more cutting. But then to swap out and do any sort of metal work is, those modules aren't cheap to add that if you want to be doing a lot of like metal engraving and such. So, the F1, we've really promoted that as it's a really great solution for portable engraving. If you're doing a lot of shows, taking it out on site, it is got that slide down shroud that keeps the smoke and debris, as well as the light radiation, kind of contained, so you're not going to be damaging people's eyes, and you can pipe it into a small fume extractor if you're wanting to cut down on the actual smoke and such too. But yeah, it's something to really think about. If you're just going to be doing engraving on pre-made blanks, that F1 is probably going to be the way to go. But if you want to be cutting items or working on anything bigger, it's going to feel limiting real quick.
Yeah, given those two machines, if I only could have one, if my primary thing was to try to get started and I wasn't worried about portability, I believe I would go with the S1, just because you have a lot more variety of what you can do. You can still do small things with the S1. It's just not going to be portable. You're not going to be able to pick it up and put it in a backpack and take it with you. So if I could only have one and I wasn't planning to take it places, I would probably go ahead and go with the S1, given the two choices, because you can do bigger things or you can do smaller things. With the smaller machines, you're limited to doing smaller things unless you're just doing like Maker's Mark or small engraves. So that's, you just got to figure out what exactly it is that you want to do with it. But neither one of them are bad machines, but like I said, they're very, very different.
Yeah.
Oh, well, thank you there, Lee, from Shreveport, Louisiana. Glad that we could help, and hopefully there'll be more, much, much more.
Todd's asking about solar generators. What would you need for an X-Tool D120-watt with air and a laptop? Going to depend on how long you want to run it, and if you need to recharge it, like it really comes down to the amount of time you want to run it. So you're going to want to look at the wattage of your laptop power brick. Then you can also look at the X-Tool D1 as well. What I've found on a lot of the gantry frame lasers, you're going to be running maybe, including air and possibly an exhaust type thing. You're going to be running, on average 200 watts, maybe up to 300 on some of the bigger ones, as far as, your peak uh, power usage on just kind of your laser setup. Your laptop's probably going to add, some of the lighter ones are maybe down to 50, but you're going to want to say probably 85 to 100 watts there as well if it's your typical power brick. So you could be at peak, and those aren't going to be running at peak the whole time, but at peak you could be running 400 to 500 watts. So if you've got a 500 watt hour solar generator and you run at peak, that's an hour if everything's perfect. Now in reality, I've got about a 1500 watt unit, and when I'm running my laptop and running the Atom Stack A24 with the pump and the air exhaust on there, all three together, I'm really averaging about 150 to 200, when it's cutting, when it's air assisting, when it's exhausting, and that laptop's going as well. So with that, I can average probably 6 to 7 hours of use, assuming I don't have any other power coming back into the solar generator. So really got to kind of take a look at your power bricks, add up the wattage, and then look at the overall, the milliamp rating or the watt amp rating of the unit that you're looking at. And that'll help give you a rough idea of what you're looking at to run. Because some people, they only need it for a couple hours, but others, if you're looking about it, 2-day event, 7 hours straight, you could be needing a lot of battery power.
Yeah. Somebody had Dark Force was asking what equipment do you use for recording in the shop, hardware and software? A whole bunch. Whole bunch. I do plan on doing a video on that because people keep asking. But I know me and Steve both, for the most part, everything kind of hubs through Streamlabs, and then goes out from there for making videos and capture software. But now, as far as hardware, the computer that I've got, you don't need what I've got. I've got a really massive machine that I used to use back when I was on the Secret Service Task Force doing computer forensics. It was a beast back in the day, but it basically EOL'd to the point to where it was considered no longer functional. And instead of destroying it or whatever, they just basically Secret Service just sends you a letter saying that equipment is no longer needed for service and you can take it home, dispose of it, whatever, because it had a lot of evidence and stuff on it that I had to get rid of. And so I'm using it, but when it was purchased, it was like a $17,000 chassis, not to mention all the upgrades it got. So, but it's old, like it's from 2010, but back then it was a beast. I have done a few upgrades to it here recently just to keep it going, but it needs to be replaced.
Yeah, I guess the my question would be, is this out of curiosity to getting started, or just curious of what we have and what we use? Because those are two different things. We're both a bit of gear junkies. As a matter of fact, I just ordered a couple more things today. I got to stop watching. I got to stop watching some of these videos where they recommend gear. But to get started, really, a phone, a decent smartphone, is all you really need. Now, ideally from there, and I think Clack touched on this a little bit in his video, audio is king. If you have bad audio, it doesn't matter how good your video is. But followed up with that, video is important. And what makes for good video is a variety of factors, but having decent lighting can help as well. That doesn't mean you got to set up your whole place as a studio, but you do want to kind of take into consideration, first off, get yourself a good audio source. So you can get even a wired lapel mic into your phone. But if you can get a Bluetooth microphone, like a little lapel style or a clip-on style that you see a lot of people use, having good audio is going to help your videos quite a bit. After that, and as far as editing, if you're using an iPhone, play around with iMovie. It's on there. It's free. You don't need to buy anything. There are other free video editors as well that you can get for PC or Mac. But play around with that and then start looking at some of your lighting quality. And sometimes that's just, I mean, you don't need to go out and buy a video light, but go out and buy a trouble light, you know, those kind of domed lights, put in an LED addressable light bulb. You can get all this stuff at Home Depot that you can kind of play with. Does it need to be a little warmer or a little lighter? And just so that you can, you know, not have dark spots in your video. Those are the two things. Work on your sound first, work on your editing, I guess 3 things, and then add in some lighting. But all that gear is not going to matter if you're not an interesting person or are excited about what you're doing. So, you know, it comes down to it. You just got to kind of jump in, start getting a feel for what you want to do. And as long as you're excited about it, your video production will get better. So,
Yeah, I mean, literally, when I first started, I was using these guys, which these still do pretty good. These are
they're still
Logitech,
yeah, they're actually, if you
Logitech
look out there,
1080p cameras.
they're
Uh,
one of the
and
recommended for streaming and everything.
and I have a few because these are like when I'm setting up recording something, I'll set a couple of them to get different angles. And that's why this one's got this nice little stand right here. And then this one, I've got clamps and everything I use with them. But those work really well. I've got a third one that monitors my 3D printer in the house. But I have started using now the Elgato kit. I use the Elgato camera. I use the Elgato mic. I got the Stream Deck, and all that kind of works together. And I pump it into Streamlabs for the live. Uh, I used to try to use my Sony ZV-1 for the lives, but me and you both know that that thing's an awesome recording camera. But to set it up as a webcam, you kind of got to set it up and leave it set up, or it's
Mm-hmm.
just a hassle to
Yeah.
try to put the battery extender in there and run the cable and change the settings. And so to me, I would rather just run with a purpose-built USB webcam and go from there. But there's a lot of settings and stuff that goes into it. And then I know
Yeah.
we both use Adobe for editing. I think I use a little bit different version. I've got some
Yeah.
add-ons I think that you
It,
don't have, but other than that, it's the
it,
same software.
well, um, no, I'm pretty
Because I
sure
went and got.
I've got more than you have, I think.
That's right, you got that college plan, don't you?
Yeah.
But anyway, I had to pay
Yeah.
extra to get to be able to take stuff from an
Yeah.
iPhone or from a DJI camera and drop it straight into Adobe. You have to pay a little extra to get that, and I keep forgetting you got that school hookup. But
Yeah. But and again, I mean, I try to caution people in trying to buy too much gear for anything. You know, there's plenty of free stuff out there, and um, you can get yourself stuck into a loop of I need this, I need this, I need this, I need this. And God, there was a saying I saw somewhere earlier. You know, don't let perfection get in the way of progress. Is basically the sentiment of it. Start with what you've got and figure out once you feel limited by that, then figure out what the next step is. Which kind of segues into this question.
yeah, yeah, the extreme elements asked, does speed actually matter if you're getting started as a business, considering the jobs won't flood in right away? And my answer is not really. I mean, not in the beginning until you start getting bigger. Like we start getting jobs to where you're having trouble keeping up because you've only got one machine running. You don't necessarily have to go buy the latest and greatest machine. You could realistically just go buy another whatever it is you're using and have 2 of them, and you've just cut your production time in half. So you know you could go with that either way. If you feel like you have the revenue to justify purchasing a better machine to go along with that one, then do that. But I've always went with the whole idea of just more machines, because technically if I had 100 of something to cut out, I could right now fire up 5 different lasers and have them cutting. And between the A70, the X40, the P2, the Lasermatic, the We Create, and the X-Tool S1, I could have 100 units cut out in just a little while. Now, my setup time is going to be, different because I got to, import it to all the different machines. But I could, and not have to have a 25 by 50 work area, because I have machines that I can call into service and use them if I need to, and if I'm not using them, I can wheel them over there out of the way. So it depends on your situation, and you might not want to keep up with 3 or 4 machines, and but what's going to wind up happening is, let's say you decide you want to buy another machine today. Well, now you've got 2 choices: either keep the one you've already got, or sell it on marketplace for a fraction of what you paid for it, which is probably you're going to get less on marketplace than you would if you just kept it and did small jobs on it from time to time. So it's it it's a personal preference, in my opinion. But
Yeah.
multiple machines is a force multiplier.
Well, and also as you grow, I mean, even as you're getting started, um, being having one machine that you're relying on is a scary proposition. If that goes down and you got an order, you really appreciate having that backup machine. So, even as people are upgrading, I caution them to, like, hang on to that old machine unless it's absolutely not doing anything for you, because you never know when you're going to have to call it back up.
Cody's asking a question. He said he knows CO2 lasers pretty well. Fiber lasers, not so much. Says he found a BWM Tech 60-watt MOPA JPT for $5K. Is this a good choice? It's practically brand new. I mean, if you're not, I mean, if that's what you're in the market for, I mean, I'm not familiar with that brand.
Um,
60 watts, that seems about the norm.
for a 60-watt MOPA, I'm just looking at what some of the typical people ask for them, and again, yeah, I'm not as familiar with some of the fiber manufacturers to know if BWM Tech is a like a higher quality or not. But a Monport 60-watt MOPA is 5,400.
Mm-hmm.
Cloud Ray is 6,500. That's a MOPA JPT. So yeah, well, okay. So the 65. So it is a discount from the Cloud Ray 60 watt JPT, saving yourself about $1,500. I guess I'd want to know, if it's practically brand new. I'd want to verify that.
See, I can't even find a website for that machine. BWM. Hmm. I'm seeing some stuff on YouTube, but I'm not seeing a website, so I don't know. I don't. I'm not familiar with that. Oh, and I'm not as well versed with the MOPAs. Matter of fact, but I guess I could probably. Let me see. Let me check my message here. I can share with you guys, uh, because I believe I'm pretty sure this one's a go, because it should be here in, let's see, Monday. It should be here. So I also, just like what Steve said, I've been being kind of particular about some stuff that I take, but Monport reached out to me and wanted me to try out a 30-watt MOPA. Now it's not a 60-watt MOPA, of course, but it's a 30-watt. And being that right now the strongest fiber laser in my shop is a 20-watt, I felt like that's an upgrade for me, and especially with it being a MOPA, that would be an even bigger plus. So they sent me a contract. I didn't like the way it read, so I reworded it, signed it, and sent it back to them, which basically just says that I will do the videos, and if I don't, I've got to buy the machine or whatever, which I'm good with because I'm going to do the videos. It didn't say I couldn't, say what I wanted to or anything like that, and they wanted me to join some kind of troubleshooting group or something, and I thought I didn't have time for that, so I took that out of the contract. But yeah, so I reworded their little thing and sent it back to them, and I'm like, hey, this is, if these terms are agreeable, I'll take one. And to my surprise, they actually sent me back a tracking number. So it's supposed to be here tomorrow, and I'll be getting it out. As far as I know, I don't have any restrictions. I need to check with them to make sure as far as releasing content. So as soon as it gets here and I can get it out of the box and figure out how to work it. Hopefully, we'll start making some content with it, and that'll be my very first MOPA experience. And I think a 30 watt, I think I can, I should be able to do most stuff with a 30 watt. It just may take longer than it would with a 60, I believe. I'll check that when it gets here.
Yeah, yeah. I want to say that's true,
I don't know
but
yet. I'll find out.
but I but also, I mean, so I've been playing around with the LP5 and trying. Everybody's going to ask how well can it do deep engraves. And so I've been doing some of the challenge coins, and I've been even using their pre-canned file. Like, this is set up for their laser by them to do this, and it does engrave into it, but it took 4 hours to do one side, and I just felt like while there was depth there, it it's going to take a while. And I don't know that you're going to truly get that nice depth along with the polish that you will with the higher wattage lasers that can really ablate that material faster. So I'll be curious to see, the jump from 20 to 30 is obviously going to be a pretty big jump, but a lot of people would say, you want to be in that 50, 60 range starting to do that. And so
Yeah.
um, I, and that's going to be the tough thing to, when talking about even like what the LP5 can do. Yes, it can do it, but I want to also temper expectations in, it's going to take a while and you're only going to get so deep in that much time.
Yeah. Oh, no, I don't think the 30 watt MOPA is going to be something I'm going to want to start a challenge coin business with. I mean, because that would probably be a little redundant. But if I wanted to knock out one or two, for myself or just do some cool projects, I think that would be possible with it. Well, we'll see. Like I said, the only mod port I've ever had was the old M40, and it was not a fiber. But looking at the machine, it looks really similar to the com markers and a lot of the other machines on the market. And I do know the one they're sending me, you can actually get it in a 60 watt variant. But of course, this is being that they're wanting to send me this thing to try out, they didn't offer that up. So, so I'm going to take the 30 and we'll run with that and see. Maybe
Sure.
maybe if they like what I do with it, maybe later they'll send me a 60 and then we can compare the 30 and the 60.
Yeah. Uh, Mark's got a question. Been trying out engraving on white ceramic tile using white paint. My test engraving have been poor to say the least. Too much paint, too much power. Not sure what I'm doing wrong. So, um, it could be a number of things. First off, you want to make sure you're using the right paint because not all paint is equal. And I believe what you're looking for is you want to look at the titanium dioxide content of the paint because that's really what gets converted. It's kind of like toner in a laser printer. It fuses to it. And so I'm trying to think. The Rust-Oleum 2X
Mm-hmm.
like antique white, I want to say, is one of the ones with a higher content of that. Um, and I don't know about too much power. Um, Obviously, if you're ablating it too far and you're getting beyond the ceramic, that could be too much. That could be too much power. If you're just kind of wiping it away and just get kind of the crusty, uh, the ceramic underneath the shell, definitely do a test grid on that. But I want to, I did a lot of testing with that on 5 and 10 watt lasers. So it definitely, you don't need a lot of power for it, but getting the right paint is going to make a huge difference. Also in the prep of your tile, make sure you're wiping them down with, use some good alcohol, clean it off, then spray it. Let that paint cure up. So, it's been a while since I've done that. I know I have a couple of brief videos on it that show the process. I think one was a short, and one was a short, long form video on it. But yeah, it can be fun, but it is, you got to put the time in on those test grids, and don't be afraid to bump your power down a little bit if you're blasting through into the center of that tile.
Yeah, if you're getting through that, was it porcelain covering or whatever,
Yeah.
then you're probably a little hot. uh, oh, wait a minute. Not the one. There it is. They keep moving by the time I go to pick them. Greg, I have been doing machine testing and doing some other stuff today. So I've just got everything put up, but the machine I'm working with, I have to keep it over there for right now. So, but soon enough. But yeah, it's I've been testing some stuff. I've been playing around with Cody's bits, making some CNC projects. I've even got myself a piece of 3/4 inch Lexan that I managed to get, and I'm gonna be trying. I'm still trying to come up with a project for it. I was gonna make a dust shoe for CNC, but then I realized I didn't need a dust shoe for a CNC because I had like a bunch of them laying around. So back to the drawing board, trying to figure out what I'm gonna make. Uh, maybe I'll figure out something, but I've got a nice like 2 foot by 2 foot by 3/4 inch thick piece of Lexan that it's gonna make something. I don't know what it's gonna make yet, but I'm gonna make something out of it. If it ain't nothing but a sign with some lights in it, maybe. I don't know. We'll see.
Hmm. um, yeah, but going back to the paint thing, you can buy titanium dioxide and powder. You mix it up, and that can help as well. Um, I actually I don't know if I still have it. I think I had bought some at one point because they use it like what in soap making as well. Um, so another thing to play with, I believe you generally mix it up with alcohol, make it into like a paste, paint it on type thing, unless you can get it into some sort of sprayer. But a lot of ways to play with it. I mean, the tile engraving can be fun, but yeah, it's something like anything. Takes a bit of playing and a lot of frustration until it finally clicks.
Yeah, I don't do a lot of that. I've played around with it, but I don't do a lot of it. I tell you what, I am fixing to do, and that's because my wife has requested it. Uh, what are those? What's the pans? God, the glass pans.
Uh, yep, it's on the tip of my
Pyrex.
tongue. Pyrex. There you go.
Yep, my wife has requested a Pyrex pan engraved, so I told her to bring me two, and I will make her one. so, so I'm gonna be doing that. I'm thinking as long as she doesn't go crazy with the size of the pan, I'm thinking the P2 is gonna be my go-to for that. Just because I know it'll interact with it. I'm never done Pyrex, so I don't know. I may run a couple of test grids with some of the other machines, but I'm gonna try to use the CO2, the P2 for that if I can. I've done glass with diodes. I've done glass on CO2s, but I think for this job, I think I would prefer the look that I can get from the P2. So we'll see how that goes.
Cool. Looks like Vince has a good tip for the titanium dioxide there. Mix it up with denatured alcohol and some food coloring to see your coverage. Spray it on with an airbrush and shake and spray. So yeah, something to play with. And yeah, you can get some inexpensive airbrushes out there. Another cool tool to have in your shop for playing with these things that you don't need to spend a ton of money on. I've had some very expensive airbrushes and I've had some very inexpensive airbrushes. Unless you're really good at what you're doing, you're not going to notice a whole lot of difference between the two. So
Yeah. Thank you, Cody. I'm not sure for what, but thanks. Somebody said they've done something that looks great. Oh, this is what I was trying to get. There we go. Oh, wait a minute. Oh, there it is right there. Yeah, I could, but I'm not
if
going to.
if only he knew how to solder LEDs together, huh?
Hmm. I think I can handle that. I did actually run a CB repair shop out of my house for a brief period of time.
And just trying to put a plug in for one of my recent videos, and you just wow.
But I'm sure if I have forgotten how to solder, I'm sure I could come over to your channel and watch your video that you did, Steve, on soldering LEDs together and figure it out. But
Yeah.
yeah.
There are some cool there's some cool LED lights that they're diffused a lot better, and they use smaller LEDs, so they don't get quite the blocky look, and they have a little more neon-esque look to them. I want to play with those at some point. Maybe that's the thing. I need to get a big sheet of acrylic, use my old flute Jenny bit to carve out the pathways for them, stick some of that stuff in there. If I could just afford that big sheet of acrylic.
Hey,
It's
I
not
got
cheap.
lucky. I got lucky on mine.
I know. I got to talk to the facilities guys at work because I'm pretty sure down in the basement there's some sheets of acrylic from COVID period where everybody was putting up those shields and such. Um, See if they're going to find their way to recycling anytime soon. Might have to steal them. Yeah, Greg. Yeah, no, I didn't quite move my shop to the basement of the NASA Space Center. Although if I was offered that, I might. But no, it's NASA space is just one of those fun things I like to keep track of. And, I did the model rocket thing as a kid and a little bit as an adult as well. And so I can almost see it. There's a Lego Saturn V rocket there, and there's a Lego moon lander. So when you have kids growing up that like Lego, sometimes your Christmas present are Lego kits as well. So I don't mind
Yes,
if they're the NASA ones. They're kind of fun to put together.
somebody was talking about it, but yeah, back in the day, I used to shop at Radio Shack. Just FYI.
Nice.
Uh, I have all kinds of little gadgetries in here. These are actually the drivers for some of the older CB radios, Cobra 29s, Cobra 19s, and stuff like that. These were the transistors that did most of the work for them. All kinds of little cool trinkets and stuff in here, but yeah, this box has been with me for a long time. It used to have labels on it back when I did my CB shop stuff, but it doesn't anymore. I got these cool gadgets right here that you can't find anymore too. Uh huh. Yeah, I got a box of those.
Wow. Don't break them.
I'm not.
You're you'll turn your shop into a super fun biohazard site, chemical hazard, whatever they'd call it.
Yeah, I thought this might have Radio Shack still written on it somewhere, but it doesn't.
Oof.
This is some old stuff. I know something in here's got to have Radio Shack. I know this probably did at one time. This
Yeah,
desolder braid.
yep.
At one time, it probably did say
Yeah,
Radio Shack.
I recognize that. Yep.
I could move everything into this other box. It seems to be in a better shape. But yeah, it's been a few minutes. And this is kind of old because they had to specify lead free. But yeah, I do need a new soldering iron though. Mine are garbage. My good ones burn up on me.
No, yeah.
Now all I got is these little cheap things right here. They work, but I don't like them.
Yeah, I've gone through a few different ones. I mean, I couldn't tell you how many soldering irons and gears I have right now, because I tend to. It's kind of like some of those tools you want to have them. Like I want one in my basement shop. I want one out in the upstairs shop. I have my portable one that can hook up to a battery. I've got one
Yeah,
out at the flying field. It's one of those skills that it's really good to have, because even if it's something as simple as like, oh, a wire broke on, well, like I mentioned in my video, I see that on the X-Tool fans. People are like, oh, I pulled the plug out and the wire broke. Well, it's not a difficult fix if you have some basic soldering skills. So
yeah. And I can tell you, this was purchased at a Radio Shack.
nice.
Circa like 1990 something.
Yeah. Larry's commenting, have you seen the deals on Amazon? Atom Stack A40 for $800. Of course, right now, Prime Day is coming up. So every manufacturer is either through Amazon or on their own kind of throwing up a lot of their Prime Day deals. So it's not a bad time to do some shopping for things if you're looking, or if a deal's going to push you over on it. There's probably going to be some good deals coming up because I think it's the 16th and 17th for Amazon Prime. And David and I don't bug you guys too much, but hey, if you're going to be doing some shopping on Prime deals this week, maybe
By
consider
all
using one of our
means.
links for it. Doesn't cost you
Yeah.
anything else, and instead of Jeff Bezos getting all the money, we get a small portion of it. So we always appreciate people using that, and we prefer that you can support us in ways that doesn't cost you anything extra. So
Yeah.
try not to be too pushy on it, but hey, if you're going to be shopping there this week and you don't mind, hit up either of our websites or one of our videos. Go to any link that we have for Amazon. It doesn't matter if you're buying that or not. Puts a token in there, and we kind of get credit for it. So always appreciate that, but never want to be pushy about it. So that's my plug. And we'll
Yeah.
jump on next.
Yeah. The poor conservative back in the day, back before I had kids, when my first kid come along, the radio room had to go. But I had a Galaxy DX55 with I had dual connexes in it. I fed it into like a 120 watt uh, transistor amplifier, and then it went into a 12 tube Phantom that I had bought and refurbed. And I think I was at one time I was pushing about 1,300 watts, and the legal limit was 25. And I actually got to meet the guys in the white truck with the antennas all over it. And so it wasn't long after that kids came along, and I got out of the radio business. The only remnants of my CB days are my electrical stuff where I worked on things. And I up until recently I had some old radio stuff in one of my storage buildings. But there's an antenna tower at the end of my house that is actually sections of what used to be my 80-foot tower that I had at my other house. We used it for an antenna. It's not that tall here. It's like freestanding 25 feet here. But yeah, it was a mess. No, I actually never went and got my ham license there, Gray. Uh, that's the whole thing. I was outlawing it. Uh, so back then though, around here we didn't have cell phones. So if I was going out to work somewhere and Brandy wanted to get in touch with me, we had a channel that, because all my radios I had the DX55, so I could slide in between channels and I could go all over the spectrum with it. So I would usually slide in between channels, like 29 and a half or 19 and a half or whatever. And I would set both radios on that same channel so that either frequency, you could tell I was talking, but it would sound like really, really broken up. But we would leave the base station on the same channel, and if Brandy needed me, she could just call me on the radio, and it would work. I'd say without cranking out a bunch of power, I had access to talk to her from, I don't know, 50 miles away on most days. Some days not that far. When the skip would start coming in, you start hearing the Puerto Ricans and everything. You'd have to crank some power up then. But for the most part, I could do 55 miles or so just barefoot. So, but yeah, that was a long time ago. And then the internet came out and I got out of it. But same thing back then as applies now. Back then, when I got into the CBs real big, I started fixing my own and doing stuff. And literally, believe it or not, I haven't had a CB shop in my house in 15 years. And I had a log truck the other day pulled over on the side of the road in front of my house and come up there and was like, "Clack, man, can you look at my radio?" I'm like, "Dude, I don't even have no gear no more." He's like, I got a SWR meter. Something's wrong with my antenna." Come to find out, his antenna had fell off and they put it back on there and they put the polybutylene bushing on the wrong side. And so his antenna was grounded. And so we just had to unmount the antenna, remount it, put it back together. But I used to have all the meters and I had a lot of money and stuff. And then when I got out of it, I sold everything. I sold all of it. But it was fun back in the day. But I think that's one of the reasons why I enjoy this stuff, because I did get an understanding of electrical stuff and how to piddle with it and play with it. I had a buddy of mine that ran a legit CB shop, and basically I signed up to be an apprentice with him, and I would do stuff for him in his CB shop, and he would basically pay me with Like I had one radio that had 16 different toys in it, like where you could push the button and it would kind of like that, but it had like 16 different Hot Porky Mama and Sylvester the cat and all these different toys in it, and it was just
Mhm.
crazy. But yeah, I wouldn't mind getting me another one, but CBs are just around here. People still use them like on the river and when they're out off roading and stuff, but it's just not as common as it was back then.
Sure. Well, Cali Vapor's asking, snagged an Atom Stack A70 Max for 1750. Anyone use the Atom Stack app for cutting? Um,
Mm, I haven't.
I I've played around with the offline controller. If you load the files on there and use that, but I haven't played too much with their app. Um, mainly mainly because they tend to be a bit limiting unless you can maybe import files that you've pre-made elsewhere, and then it's just as easy to load them. So unfortunately, no. I mean, and if I understand right, Atom Stack kind of recently created an app that's a little bit better than some of them I've seen, which is nice to see. I mean, also, along the lines of you've got XCS with Xtool, you've got what's the We Create has there's Make It software or
Creative
whatever,
space or whatever.
um,
Create something.
and Laser Pecker has their design space as well that are they're they're actually halfway decent. And the thing I like about Laser Pecker is that actually that the mobile one mirrors their desktop one fairly well. I haven't played around with the Xtool mobile app as much, but it's nice to see them. But it's hard to kind of go back to them when you use some of those desktop apps or Lightburn in general. So unfortunately, I can't speak too much to it. But yeah. Um, that being said, I mean, a lot of these don't take a whole lot of computer to drive it. So if you can find a refurbished laptop out there, I've seen some that probably you could snag for $100 to $200. They're going to run Lightburn just fine, or even Laser GRBL. So depending on the level of tolerance for frustration and whatnot, and I know everybody's budget's different. You don't have to have a $1,500 laptop or a crazy desktop to run a lot of these. So don't be afraid of finding a good refurbished computer to run it if that's what all you can get.
Somebody's asking what a UEFA discount is. I'm not sure, but it looks like to me it's something to do with European something and others. Because everything I'm finding references European and Europe and euros and so forth. So I'm not sure. That may be like I said, a discount for the. I don't know. It's not something I'm familiar with, and Google is not doing a very poor job of telling me what it is.
Yeah.
I missed some comments.
Well, Mark said he watched my soldering video and went out and bought a soldering iron set and going to use it to try to fix some things. So yeah, I mean that's my whole goal with a lot of this stuff is just to try to help push people to not be to get that first step. I I was that kid who tore things apart to figure them out.
Yeah, I was too.
Sometimes put them back together, but it's made me and I try to teach this to my boys somewhat. It's like when the dryer went out, I mean there were a lot of places like, yeah, we'll help you buy a new one, and came out it was just a relay on the valve, and um, no local
Valve.
place wanted to sell me that, um, so I had to buy it online. But picking up some of these small skills like soldering can definitely help add some longevity into your gear. So I'm glad it can help. I'm glad you found some use of it, and hopefully it does you well and saves you a little bit of headache and some money.
Yeah, being able to fix your own stuff is very important. Like I said, I grew up in a garage, and my dad, I can honestly say, I never saw any kind of repairman show up at our house because he fixed pretty much everything and anything. Of course, you know, in the world we live in, there are certain things that you can't do. or you're not supposed to do, such as like add Freon to your own air conditioner. But it's not that hard. It's just a matter of having to like meet some guy in a back alley to get the Freon.
Yeah, I mean, I I try to do that as much as I can, but I also as I've had the ability to, I've gotten a little more. I'm more likely to call someone to do certain work when it's just like I got better things I could do, and I'm willing to pay them for their time to save me the time, or the mess and the headache. I've done a lot of my own plumbing. I've done a lot of my own car work and electrical work, all those things. But I've learned to pick my battles because there's only so many trips to Home Depot plumbing section that I can tolerate before it's going to be a spider's nest, a rat's nest, those sorts of nests.
I guess Tim saw the video over on the other channel, but our rooster apparently is having a bad day. He was crowing as it was getting dark instead of as it was getting
Mm.
daylight. So I don't know if he slept all day. We don't know, but I was messing with Brandy because he started crowing and she just started laughing her butt off, and I was like, I gotta video this. But yeah, he quit shortly thereafter. But it wasn't just him. There was roosters. You could hear them like all off in the horizon crowing. So I don't know what it was.
Mm. Poor Conservative says brand new to lasers and just bought a small diode from Atom Stack. Going to try getting into this. And yeah, that's why you'll see us trying to not just jump to the crazy expensive high end lasers. And there's still a lot you can do with those 5 and 10 watt diodes, and you can get them for pretty inexpensive. So um, it's there are some limitations with them, due to power and speed, but if you have the time and the patience and want to play around, you can even cut thicker material with these smaller ones. But the beautiful thing about those small diodes is they're going to do some beautiful engravings. You can still cut through some, most craft materials. And so, jump in, play around, do it safely, but don't be afraid to just burn through some material. And, you got a couple of good channels here with a lot of good inspiration and instructional stuff. So glad to see you here, and hope we can help you out. So if you have questions for us, bring them here or check out our videos, or also check out the Facebook group if you're on there.
Yeah, Gray, these are just for decorations though. I just keep these around for decorating. That's all.
It's your steampunk cosplay.
Yeah, I mean, on Halloween, I dress up as a HVAC repair guy.
Let's see here.
Somebody said the com marker B6 MOPA have them on Kickstarter. Maybe yeah, like I said, haven't heard from com marker since the 20 watt, so
Yeah.
I think a 60 watt's probably out of reach anyway. But it'd be cool to play with. Steve will probably get one, and then maybe I can just see what his does, because Steve gets all the cool toys.
Yeah, I don't know about that.
Yeah.
You're the one with
Right?
a. I haven't even been able to get X-Tool to send me things lately, so I don't know what you're talking about.
Not gray. Those are strictly for decorations, man. I can't be using them. Now, if I have my brother-in-law come over, he actually is authorized to use those, but I'm not. Clack, did I get your email? When did you send the email, Victor?
Can
Don't know.
you cut Mylar with a D1 Pro 20 watt? Not if it's clear.
I haven't had any luck.
No. You can with the CO2. I've done that, but no, not with a. I mean, have you tried if you're doing the real thin stuff, perhaps if you were to paint it first, that's going to create enough to melt through it, but it might not be as
It'd be
as clean
messy.
as it could be definitely messy, but
Yeah.
unfortunately
Victor.
with those
Go ahead.
diodes, yeah, they're if it's transparent, translucent, you're going to struggle.
Yeah, Victor. I just saw your email, and that is not what you want to see on your plate. I'm just gonna throw that out there. Uh, Victor sent me a picture. Somebody did. Somebody did an engrave on some glass. I'll try to get it to where I can show it to you without like showing his email address. Here we go. This is not what you
Oh.
want to see.
Yeah, just as you've gotten to you finished the pie, like, oh wait.
Yeah, you don't want to see that. Oh,
Robbie's asking, how is the software for the A1 Mini? Is it pretty easy to use? So yeah, the Bambu software, and it works with all their printers as well as additional ones. As a matter of fact, when I was setting it up, they have the Cheaty, they had the Max, and then the Pro or whatever I've got here. It's fairly simple, and they walk you through it. As a matter of fact, on your phone, you got to sign up for an account first so that it knows how to link it. But you scan a QR code, you join the printer to your Wi-Fi, and then you download the software and you log into it. They have some pre-canned models that you can just bring in, and it even has all the settings, and then it'll even ask what kind of filament you have, and if you're using a popular brand, they'll even have that in there, so it can import those settings as well. So it's very beginner friendly. Now, when you're doing your own designs, it's best using the desktop version for that. But there again, since the printer ends up being it can connect to the cloud. Now you can still load on through an SD card, but you can just sign into your new device with your account, and it'll go out and see that printer, and you don't have to add any, you don't have to copy your configurations and profiles in. It just pulls those down, and then you can drop in STLs and such, and there again you kind of step through their setup of what filament and such. I do plan to do some video work and show that, kind of getting started with it, because I know a lot of people that watch our channels would be interested in that. So both the A1 Mini and the A1 use the same software as well as all their other ones. So yeah, this is a printer that I think I would definitely recommend for beginners. It's inexpensive and it's very easy. It takes a lot of the frustration out of getting started with it. So you get to do a demonstration.
I will try it because I really don't know.
All right.
So now this is just like random Lowe's or Home Depot. I'm not even sure. Half-inch MDF. I just happen to have some small pieces over by the CNC. So I
Nice.
figure, we'll find out. I will say that from my experience with MDF, it's probably not going to do a single pass drop. Could,
Yeah.
but I doubt it.
Well, while
20,
that's
20.
doing that's thing, Nancy's asking which would be your choice between the Rolly 30XW and the Atom Stack 70 watt with the expansion rails. Um,
It depends.
yeah, if you're needing to do okay, so I think this would be if you could get the wider, if you could mimic the A40 setup where it's nice and wide, you got your 31, 32 inches of working area wide, um, without going the 30 inches deep. So it's, the 18 inches deep. Um, that's nice if you can build your own enclosure and if you need that space. If you don't need that space, the Rolly is really nice in the fact that it's got the enclosure set up, it's got the camera set up, it's got the exhaust fan set up, but you're also only limited to about 24 wide, and it's also still only 30 watts. So your cutting speed's going to be less, um, but again, you're still going to be able to do a lot with that 30. There's not a whole lot more that the 70 watt can do that the 30 can't do, given some speed and time considerations. Um, And the 30 watt does flip down to 10 watts. So if you're doing the engravings, it's going to have finer detail than the 70 just dropping down to the half. So a number of things to consider there and ask yourself, because as we've said before, there's no one perfect laser that's going to be great for everyone. It's going to take a little bit of your your circumstances are going to direct maybe this one or that one are better for you. How to do? Not quite.
It looks like it's going to take 5 passes at
Okay.
6 millimeters a second. It almost went through. I could have pushed it out, but it would have ripped a little bit.
Yeah, Russ. If you can export the STL files, depending on the software you have, you can definitely make them work for CNC. The later versions of VCarve, you can import STLs, and you can kind of do what they call 2.5 access carving. If you want to really do the fancy carving with STLs, two-sided and all that, you're really jumping into Aspire. I know other softwares can play with them as well. But being in the Vectric world, that's kind of what I go to. But as a matter of fact, a friend of mine just asked me today if I can do some work with STLs for his CNC, because his version won't support it. So I'm gonna have to connect with him and see if that's something I can do. Gray's asking, moving from a 10 watt diode to a 40 watt diode, does that translate to 4 times as fast cutting or faster? No. It's not a linear translation. So it is going to gain speed, but you also have to keep in mind that generally you're dealing with the same focal length. So as it's actually going to probably mean more for speed than it is for cutting thickness. The focal distance of these tend to stay the same.
All right, that's 5 passes. I did it 5 the first time, but the second time I wasn't sure if it was hitting the same exact path, but that's 5 passes.
Still can't push it out.
It ain't. Yeah, I mean it's.
Yeah.
It's in there. It's getting awful hot though.
The other thing too is as you go up in from a 10 watt up to a 40 watt, they're throwing more diodes at it, but they're not all being focused into the same spot. Now, some of the newer lasers we've seen have had a more compressed spot, so that has helped, but that power is also spread out a little bit more. So it is an improvement in speed, but it's kind of exponential. It's probably, you're gaining maybe 60% for every 100, every doubling of wattage, but even that is going to depend on a lot of factors. We've seen different lenses with different focal lengths and such that can have an impact. So no, don't count on it translating it 4 times faster.
All right, I dropped the focus all the way down to the lowest recommended setting. So it is MDF, so it is flat. It shouldn't hit nothing. But I still got it running 5 passes. We'll see what happens. But I'm fixing to punch a hole in it, one way or the other.
So Medic 2690 is asking, can the X-Tool F1 Ultra etch engrave a filled bourbon bottle?
I mean, yeah, I would think so with the blue.
Yeah, you can. I would still, I would try to still coat it to make sure that it's interacting with the top layer. You shouldn't, you're probably not going to risk it where you're going to heat up the liquid so much that it causes a problem. Okay. You just want to be careful that some glass does not react well to etching. So I would definitely start lighter and move on up if you can. But I've seen it done. The F1 Ultra with the blue laser and a coating to interact with the glass is going to work fine. So yes, it is possible.
When going up to 6 passes, it doesn't appear to be on fire on the inside, but it could possibly be. So this is going to be 6 passes at 6 millimeters a second. We'll see if it dumps it this time. But this is I said this is thick. This actually maybe thicker than a half inch.
Goofy Loopy's asking, I have a Monport 100 watt. Now we can't get it to cut. It engraves, but will not cut. Is there anything I can check in Lightburn? Wondering if we accidentally changed the setting. I would, if you've got an ammeter on there, and a lot of the newer models are coming with them, check to see what that is reading when you're in cutting mode versus engraving. It should be spiking up higher to, with 100 watt, it's probably up in the 22-ish or 25-ish milliamp, depending on your tube rating and your controller. If it's not getting up there, it definitely could be a setting either in Lightburn or also in the controller itself, where it could be limited. But that would be kind of the first clue to look at. But I'd also, depending on how old it is, those tubes do wear out, or if they got overheated or overdriven, they can wear out faster. There's a number of different things to look at as to why it's not cutting. But first would be to see if it's actually getting full power to that tube, and if you have a milliamp meter on your laser, that's a very easy way to see if the power is going up there. So,
All right, I was able to break it out with my thumb. It's a very gnarly looking cut, and it's hot. Whew. All right. I'm going to show you something now.
how many passes was that got it through there?
It still wasn't clean. I pressed it out, but it still wasn't clean. That
Sure,
was
but how many?
6 passes at 6 millimeters a second with
Okay.
air assist, with the focus dropped all the way down. So, yeah.
Jack is asking what materials should be used, avoided when building an extraction system for a shop.
Let me check the thickness on this and make sure what this is. It's half inch, 13 millimeters.
Yeah. Jack, I don't know if there's like a absolutely avoided. There are things that don't do as well as others. Using a more rigid pipe. So if you can use, the straight walled galvanized steel piping or the aluminum piping, that's going to be best. And you want to try to the shorter that it is better. And then you want to avoid hard 90-degree turns as much as possible. You want them to be as sweeping, because every 90-degree turn adds turbulence and it slows down that air. Flexible piping can be used, especially when you need it in a a little more flexible area, but also understand that is going to cause turbulence and slow things down as well. But I try to use the galvanized metal piping as much as I can, and then just use flexible at maybe the very inlet and possibly the outlet. But and most important thing is to try to seal up any joint, any connections as much as possible. That'll cause either additional suction points where you don't want them, or leak points if they're on the other side of the fan. But I've seen people use the flexible pipe. I've seen people use PVC pipe. You can use. I try to stay away from the dryer vent, real thin walled stuff, because that punctures very easily, and you'll find yourself losing even more flow. And if it's on the other end, it'll push that smoke out through pinholes and such. So it's a whole different thing if you're talking about chip collection versus just smoke extraction, though. So
Yes. Yeah, I wouldn't be doing the same with both. I strongly recommend not. All right, so we're going to turn this back off of 6 passes. Let me take you up to the top screen here. All right, camera control, update, overlay. We'll put it like right there. All right, we'll go ahead and frame that. All right, let me drop my focus. I'm just gonna run this off top focus to start with. Well, what the heck? You know what? Let's show off. Z offset. Let's see, what do we say? This is 13 millimeters. So I'm gonna drop my Z 5 millimeters for this cut. So here we go. We'll run this puppy one pass and see what happens.
Moment of truth. How close? Hanging on by a thread? Yeah.
Like that. I mean, it's got two little tags right there. All it was holding. One pass. So we'll run this twice at a little bit faster speed and see what happens. This is the difference, though, guys. I mean, it's a little different. Here we go. Update overlay. All right, remove that over there. Put it right on top of that one. I'm gonna run it. We'll just do 2 passes, just to make sure.
While you're doing that, I'm just going to pop this up there. That guy with the laser's asking, is practicing box joints on cardboard a good idea? Trying to cut costs. Practicing for getting the idea down and seeing how some changes to your files, sure, but it won't necessarily translate into, even if you have 1/8 inch thick cardboard, it's not necessarily going to translate into the same with plywood or hardwood. You're still going to need to you'll still need to do some tests on kerf and other things for that. So it's never, you got the cardboard, it's free. If you're trying something new, you want to just test it out as a scrap material, sure. But just expect that it'll still need a little work when you jump over to real material.
2 passes. I did hit one of my other holes. 2 passes, clean cut. Lots of soot, though. Lots of soot. And that's at 6 millimeters a second. 2 passes, and it's literally a clean drop. There was no snags, no nothing. But the difference is too. I mean, this machine has the clearance that I just put a 5 millimeter drop on my cut for this cut line, and it's hard for you guys to see it, but with this machine, I can actually assign the module to go deeper, just like a CNC, before it makes that cut. And that enables me, especially with the longer beam of this machine, I could have went down the full 6.5 to be focused midpoint of the material, but I just didn't want to get that close to the material just in case. But because it could let some stuff get back up in the nozzle, dirty up my lens. So yeah, 70 watts compared to 30 watts. I mean, you would expect it to do better, but it's still not, even though this is twice as much power, it's still not, I wouldn't say it's twice as fast, but now the beam of this machine just is made for cutting. That's just the way it works. But that's 1/2 inch, 13 millimeter MDF with the A70, AKA the lightsaber. Turn this fan over here off.
Let's see here. Dark Force Made is mentioning trying to use the faceta. Again, that name. Faceta. However we say that. 20 watt on a table for pass-through functionality. Is there a video or resource you can recommend to show how to do this in Lightburn? What you're looking for is the print and cut allows for a pass through. I think Lightburn software themselves has a decent video on that. I know Louisiana Hobby Guy did one a couple years ago. Not sure, some things may have changed in the past couple of years. And I want to say Steve over at Hobo with Wood has done a video or a stream on that as well. So I know I haven't done that yet myself as far as a video or anything. I've only played around with it, so I'm not your best resource on this one. And I don't know that you have either. So those would be a couple of pages and channels I would look at for that. You got any recommendations on that one or no?
Like I said, I've seen Rich, and I think Steve over at Hobo did some stuff with it, but
Yeah.
I never use it. I just throw my stuff over here in enclosure Zilla, and I cut it 36 inches in a single pass. So
Mhm.
I don't have to use that. Anything bigger than that, I cut it out on CNC. So I don't usually use that one. But this is a dry rag, a little bit of wiping, and I got it down to where it's not quite caramel, but it doesn't have all the soot coming off of it. So that's the cut with the A70. It's a smooth cut, and just for reference, so we're being fair. The difference between having to make multiple passes with a laser and doing it in less passes, you can see the one on the right is the MK2. What happens when that beam terminates inside the material like that, as many times as it does, is it builds up heat in there, and so you're gonna get the little burnout pocket. You can see it's almost like a pocket all the way around it, where that beam was almost fizzling out. Whereas the less passes you have to do, you're gonna get a more uniform, smooth cut. So that's the advantage, especially when you get to the thicker materials. Now this is insanely thick. MDF is stubborn. Half-inch MDF is
Mhm.
really stubborn. Three-quarters is even worse, but that if you're going to be using a lot of half-inch MDF for projects, either get yourself a CNC or get yourself a 70 watt,
Yeah.
because it actually does a pretty good job with it.
Yeah, the beam lingering is really, I mean, that's where on some of my videos when I'm testing them and the marketing info says, well, it'll cut through 30 millimeter material in one pass. Well, it's going to look like that charred mess. Whereas I'll actually run more realistic. Like, okay, if you do it at 2 or 3 passes at this power and speed, because you're not leaving that beam parked in one spot for so long, it's creating a cleaner cut. It's creating a safer cut because you're not going to start fires. So yeah, it's a very good demonstration of why you'd want to play with that. So
Yeah. And a
um
lot of that too has to do with the beam length,
yeah.
because the longer the beam, because you got to look with the MK2, because it's kind of a short focal length. By the time the beam makes it halfway through the material, it's so out of focus that it's generating a lot of heat but not doing a lot of cutting. And so that's why, as it gets deeper into the material, you start seeing a lot of that erosion of the material, is because that beam is just so out of focus. Whereas with the A70, I'm serious, guys. The beam on that A70 is that long. Like, I kid you not. I need to do some more video on it. It is massive. Like, it's 3 inches. It when it's regularly cutting without dropping the focus, it's a good inch and a half above the material when it's cutting. It literally looks like a lightsaber. But but that also helps because the beam stays focused over a greater distance through the material.
Well, that's one of the advantages of most CO2 lasers is you can swap out the focus lens and you stretch out that hourglass. You get that beam in focus longer, but it tends to widen out that focus spot, so your curves can be wider. And so it's a
Yeah.
trade off, but it's nice that you can swap those out. We're gonna need to re-roll the intro music because Jack would like us to start over. So if you want to go ahead, Jack, better late than never. Glad you could join us.
There you go. There you go. That good enough? But yeah. But no, it's like an hour and 40 minutes late, man. Yeah, I mean, did you even get credit for showing up? Nah, you can watch the replay, Jack. It'll be there for, from now on. So you can catch that. Listen to us while you're driving or something.
Gray Vikings asking if the helicopters, aka mosquitoes, are bad up here in Minnesota. Yeah, they are. It definitely is pockets. I mean, Minnesota is a very wet state. I mean, if there's not a lake or a river or a pond, it's a cornfields hold just massive amounts of moisture in them as well, and so it's just the entire state's a breeding ground for them. And with all the rain and flooding we've had, they've been extra bad. What's interesting is there was all this talk about, the cicadas, and I think I've heard them one or two evenings. So I don't know if that's still in store for us yet. Um, the other thing that gets bad is we got those little, micro biting flies. Um, those are almost worse than the mosquitoes half the time. But yeah, I can't wait for August. Tends to be drier up here, weather wise. So I'm really looking forward to next month, and hopefully we don't do the typical Minnesota thing where it's like September comes, hey, it's fall, and all of a sudden, hi, winter, what are you doing here so early? I'm banking on a longer fall this year, so we'll see if I get my wish.
He said Jackson's after the participation medal. But yeah, anything else? Questions? We did actually get to make some smoke.
Mm.
A little bit of it anyway.
Yeah, I suppose if I would have been, if I would have set up a little earlier, I could have been on the basement shop. I could have burned something on the LP5 or something.
Well,
But yeah, I've been playing with that this week. Trying to pull stuff together for a more in-depth overview of it, and try to highlight some of the other features. I'm happier with this. If people saw my LP2 video, the roller accessory, it was okay for like doing a tumbler, but as far as feeding material, I really didn't care for it. This has that platter slide extension thing. It actually works better. It definitely it expands the working area of that laser. They have a cutting tray on it, so you can actually engrave and then cut something across the width of it, which is nice. And it seems to work okay. It's doing some playing with the rotary. You know how much I love rotaries.
Oh, those things you never use.
Yeah, I use them. They're just not. They don't get. They don't. I don't know. I don't get as excited about that as.
Well, Klein told me the other day if you had an extra atom stack rotary, he could actually use two right now because he's got this big tumbler job. He's hit me up wanting to borrow where he can set two machines up to run them.
Yeah,
he's hit me up wanting to borrow a machine.
I only have one atom stack.
I gave him my Acer. I've kept the black and the gray atom stacks because that way I've got a backup in case one gets killed. Mm-hmm. But yeah, he's been like, hey, if you're gonna be at work that week, I could just use your shop. I'm like, yeah, okay, all right. Burn Carve print. I don't know what I'm gonna be doing yet. The first few months, I'm just gonna be living in blissful, like, I don't know, joy. So we'll see. Far as doing stuff or events or whatever. I have talked to May May when she does her events here in town. Because a lot of the ladies that come to the events bring their husbands or whatnot. And I have talked to her about possibly partnering and doing like a little, I don't know, like an introduction to lasers or something like class along with her class while she's doing the classes on the different things that she does. One, to give the guys something that maybe they might be interested in, and two, maybe to also give a chance for some of the folks that watch our channel come and maybe just see some new toys, play with a few softwares, hang out, and, maybe do a project or something. But we'll see. We'll see how all that goes. As retirement is getting there is like priority one is to get there. And then we'll figure out what we're going to do.
Well, if you start doing that, you're definitely going to need the M1 Ultra, and then you can do demos to all the crafting ladies.
Oh, I told her that thing was basically a cricket, and she told me to stay in my lane again.
Well,
so
I mean, if they send one, I'm gonna have to implicate you somehow and tag her, and just because I like to cause a little chaos.
Yeah. Well, what you do is, because see, I've threatened to do like a May video to where I just, because she does just her hands mostly. And so I've threatened to set a video up with that machine and just use my hands. I've tried talking her into doing a shop swap, but she won't do
Okay.
it. Yeah. Like basically one night, like she come to my shop and I go to hers and we do a project and
Hmm.
do a video of it. I would do a video of me in her shop doing something, and then she would come here and do the same thing. So, but I think she's scared.
Well,
I think she's intimidated by all the lasers.
I mean, is this going to affect your level of makeup in that video or
I
not?
don't wear makeup, Steve. This is tan. See, I just
I
like
mean,
like
I'm
like
just
there's no tan up there. That's a farmer's tan or
hey,
redneck tan.
word
Whatever.
on the
Look,
street. Word on the
look.
street.
I'm a legit redneck, man, or brown neck, whatever you want to call me.
Mm,
Oh,
yeah.
that was awful. Yeah, that guy was like, dude, whoever does your makeup needs to learn how to do it. And I'm like, what? Dude, I'm just tired. Leave me alone.
Yeah, I know. I honestly am surprised I haven't gotten some of those because I've had some where I'm like, "Whew, got a little bit of the bags under the
Mm,
eyes, but
yeah. Well, I mean, I,
um
I am I am getting older. I got more wrinkles on my eyelids than I've ever had in my life. So I mean, maybe that's it. Me and Brandy even thought maybe I had like been messing with something that I cut on the laser, and maybe I had wiped my eyes and had like soot on my
sure,
eyes.
could be.
Because I mean, that's feasible. So we went back and watched the video and like zoomed in, and I couldn't see it. I couldn't find it. So I was like,
Hmm.
well, because I was going to give him an alibi if I had wiped, soot on my eyes or something. I was going to give him an alibi, but yeah, there wasn't any. So, but yeah, I was just shocked because I mean, because how many of y'all have noticed that occasionally in my videos, because I don't like brush my hair or anything, I'll have like this little twig of hair like, sticking up. It happens. It happens a lot because I don't think about that. I go to town dressed just like this, and I don't. I do try to make sure my hair is not sticking straight up before I get into a video, but sometimes, especially if I'm wearing my ear protection, a little twig will get caught, and then when I take them off, it just stands straight up, and I don't even notice it until I'm editing the video, and I'm like, I am not fixing to redo this whole video because of that little twig of hair. So
I only do that. I'll do that when I grossly misspoke and I can't edit it out.
oh no, I've gotten
Of
pretty
course, then
good.
it's see the problem is it's usually like the next day or something. And I'm like, "Ugh, I gotta go find that shirt."
Just buy all your shirts the same. You don't have to worry about it.
Yeah,
Now there was a couple of videos that I did, and nobody caught it. But I was talking and I got all tripped up. It was like, and it just like, boom. And you know how your mind will just go blank?
mhm.
And I meant to go back and fix it, but I didn't do it that day. So, like a week later, I was editing those clips together and I was like, man, I need to fix that. And I realized I didn't go back and redo that clip. So I'm like, crap, I need to redo that clip. So I set the camera up in about the same angle, redid that little clip and put it in the video. But then I realized I had got a haircut. So I went from having like bushy hair to like cut hair back to bushy hair, and nobody caught it.
Well,
So
yeah. No, I always think it's fun when I don't know if whether it's intentional or not, but sometimes you see people like there's that little edit point that should have been in the video. I know I've done that a couple times, but
yeah,
yeah. So you either got to like really lean into it. It just like this video is obviously made over multiple days, or yeah, you gotta be mindful about some of those details because there's that one person will
oh yeah,
catch it, but
yeah. But like that one was so obvious because like from frame to frame, it went from man, I need a haircut to wow, my hair looks pretty good. Oh, wait a minute, I need a haircut
well,
again. It's
so
like,
so my friend Matt Cremona did this. He was doing a video on finishing, and he was using Armor Seal, which you got to wait about 4 hours in between coats. And he went from being full beard, and he just did it in sections in between each coat. He's like, all right, we're come back, we're going to do this. And then, his beard maybe he was trimmed down to a goatee, and then it was just like, the it just kind of progressively shaved. So I mean, he kind of just had fun with that when I leaned into it. But yeah.
Yeah. Hey, happy birthday there, John. And Steve's going to sing happy birthday to you. Steve?
Oh, me? Yeah. Okay. No.
I tried, John. I tried. All right. Well, moving
Um,
on. No happy birthday singing, I guess.
yeah. Happy birthday, John. But no, I'm not singing. Lance has a couple questions. For websites, what do you use to host, and any other tips for the small business? And then part 2 is something completely different about Amstack Chuck with the F1. Website host. This is going to depend on your level of, if you want just a drag and drop, easy to use, everything's kind of done for you interface, you're going to be wanting to looking at like Wix or what is it, Squarespace. And if you're going to go that route, I would just start completely with them, because it's not fun to try to pull in parts of your domain and other things to a place like that. If you're willing to do it, be a little more flexible, willing to do some programming, a little more maintenance on your back end, I would look for a typical host. GoDaddy is they're not the cheapest, but they have a lot of flexibility, and they have some built-in apps that you can do all the way up to straight up do your own coding. They've got decent tech support. I've been using them for, gosh, I don't know how long, possibly 2 decades. And you can, if you really need to, you can generally get, more local tech support, at least here in the US. They're pretty responsive on things. But you do pay a little bit more for some of their stuff. There are cheaper hosts out there, but kind of, the what you pay, you get what you pay for, kind of falls in there a bit. So I've been using them for a while, and I've been happy with it, but I've also, I grew up coding on a Commodore 64. So I'm kind of comfortable with tinkering with the with the code. Otherwise, if you're just wanting something that's got e-commerce and a kind of a drag and drop and template, either look at Wix or Squarespace to kind of get started there.
Yeah. The GoDaddy package that I've got, it's not terribly, like, you don't have to code anything per se. You do have to do a lot of your own design and but it's set up fairly easy. But like you said, it's not the cheapest thing around, but it comes with email. It comes with so many web pages, like the ability to have like a users area and stuff like that. So websites are hard unless you've got a way of driving traffic to it. Just understand that. I mean, I hear a lot of people talking about how you can make a lot more money on your website than you can with Etsy. And if you have 3 million followers or 500,000 followers, you probably could. But being able to get people to come to your website, you have to remember you got to get them there somewhere, some way. So either you're going to have to advertise your website, or you're going to have a big enough following on social media or whatever to drive enough traffic there to keep you happy. And that's still not saying you're going to be making as much as you could, because, Etsy has been good for me, but now I stick with digital sales. I don't do physical items on Etsy. My physical items I do locally. But there again, I have a small method of advertising for myself, even with Etsy. Because with Etsy, if you can advertise for yourself and use links on your own, they actually waive advertising fees for those purchases if they're made through like an affiliate link for yourself or whatever. And that's what I do to avoid those fees is I turn off all of Etsy's automatic marketing, and I just market myself. Maybe I could make more if I let Etsy do it, but I just do it myself.
The other thing along that is a lot of the extras that go along with that. So if you want to spin up your own website and do a WooCommerce kind of thing, you can, but now you got to be thinking about SSL certs. You got to be thinking about constant security updates. You got to be worried about, do you have all your tax collection plugins done correctly? So while people, and yeah, there you do pay for these on these other sites, and Goofy brings up another one too, Shopify. That's one I was trying to think of. A lot of these sites you are paying more for that, but a lot of that is stuff that's kind of done for you. And yes, Etsy, they will, you put your listing out there, they're going to mark it on there. Hey, here's some other sellers with similar items. So
Oh,
it can be tricky,
and
but
another thing,
they're also helping drive that uh, drive the customers to your site. So it is a balance. And I know a lot of people that start on Etsy, and once they kind of have built up a following, they will migrate to other places to try to capture another, 10, 15% of the sale that they're just giving away through paying for that stuff. But
well, you got to think too, and this is one of the things that I hear a lot of people talking about Shopify and Etsy and all these different places. You also have to collect sales tax. And with collecting sales tax means that you also have to submit your sales tax to said jurisdiction. So if you get to where, let's say, like, and I'm speaking from a conversation that I had with Vinny, which is Maymay's husband, the other day. Let's say you make sales in 48 states this month, in 20 cities per state. You have to go online and file a sales tax submission to the city of Cincinnati, to the state of Ohio, and you have to do that for every purchase that is made through your website. How long is that going to take you to do that? You
and
see what I'm
every
saying? And if you don't file, like if you forget to file next month, it's a $50 or $100 late fee. Trust me, I forgot my sales tax. It cost me $100, and all I file is state of Alabama, Chilton County, city of Clanton, and that's it. So
yeah,
it cost me $100 just for that. So imagine if something happened. Let's say you went in the hospital and you're in the hospital for a month or two, and you've had 300 cities that you didn't file a sales tax submission to. 300 times a $50 late fee. That's a lot of penalties for 1 month. So that's something that I don't want that liability hanging over my head, because that's that's where Etsy takes care of that. You give them the
yeah.
money, they pay it.
And it actually varies from state to state and everything. So you trying to keep up with which states have what limits, um, it'll drive you nuts. So that's something you're also paying for that. You're paying for that
Mm-hmm.
convenience. So um, definitely something to look at. I mean, in any case, you're going to need to do a lot of your own marketing yourself, even though, Etsy will do some for you, um, until you start getting some traction, where they realize you're a decent seller. They're not going to do a lot. So, I mean, case in point, I've got a couple of friends here that, I've helped out, given them some of my equipment to get started, and they've created some really cool files, and they've put them out there on Etsy, and it's taken them,
Bug,
all of a sudden,
bug,
like
bug.
couple,
You got a bug on your right shoulder. Bug on your right shoulder.
all of a sudden you, all of a sudden you, oh, I
He
see.
was.
Yeah. Um, all of a sudden it's like 2 months later, they finally get one sale. Whereas I can put a video out about it, and it's, yeah, I might get a sale that same day, or more, depending on what it is. So you're either, any way you do it, you're going to have to do your own marketing, to some degree, but
Yeah. Clark, love your tumblers color. How did you make that? Oh no, I didn't make this. This is actually a friend of mine who's an artist. She painted it and did all this, and then she like basically coated it in epoxy. So I didn't do that one. I paid her to do it. That was like $45, but it's very durable. I've had this thing now for what, a year, and it looks like it's brand new. So she does good work. She actually works for my buddy Tim up at the sign shop. This is her side hustle. She does it in a little. She's got a little shop out behind her house. She does it in. So
there's just so many of them here that we're just used to it. No, that's part of the problem is, So our house it's in an older neighborhood. Our house was built in 1928. Still has a poured concrete foundation, but when we had all that water, it just all the bugs they didn't want to hang out in the dirt. They were trying to find their way into any crack or crevice or whatnot. And so yeah, we're it down here in the basement. It's some of the fun. Also means I get the place mostly to myself. But yeah, it's Chris brings up the national GST makes it easy, and burn carved prints with all the tax issues. There's no incentive to sell online. It is definitely something to think about. In international sales, it's a whole nother level to
Mm-mm.
that, between shipping and other taxes, and also
Packaging has
in
to be a certain way.
yeah, in certain like European nations now, um, if you don't send 100% recyclable material, you may have to have a process where you are paying for some service to ensure that your packing materials are dealt with appropriately. And it's to disincentivize, just shoving a ton of foam and sending it off. And it's something I've actually edited this out of a lot of my videos as I'm unboxing stuff. I'm just like pulling out all this foam, and it doesn't compress. There's nothing I can do with it. I just, send me all the cardboard you want, because I can take that a mile away to the recycling center and just get rid of it. But the foam that, around here, no one recycles that. And so I get that it's needed in a lot of cases to provide the protection. But I was watching a video of someone unboxing. X Tools got these DIY kits, which I think they're overpriced and whatnot. But, it was like a couple of clock kits, and he's unboxing them. And sure enough, they have another layer of that foam, that Kaizen style foam. And I'm like, why, for a few sheets of plywood and a couple of clock movements, do you need to shove all that foam in there for? So things to
Yep.
consider as you're selling online or dealing with international. It may not make sense for you to offer your products there. That was something I had to consider back when I was selling my airplane stands in the US and even into Canada. I could do it and do it reasonably. But by the time, I had a lot of people that wanted me to ship them overseas, but the cost and the honestly, I tried sending a few over there, and sometimes they'd go missing. Sometimes parts would go missing. And so replacing a hardware pack for someone in the US wasn't a big deal. It was $5. It's sorry, inconvenience. Here you go. But if it was international, and being one of two countries in the world using Imperial systems, I couldn't just say, well, go out to your hardware store and buy this. They couldn't find a quarter 20 bolt. So
Yeah.
yeah, there are a lot of things to think of when you start um shipping and shipping physical products, whether it's in-state, outstate, international, and taxes and things. It's not impossible, but you got to be thinking about them and put that into your equation of, is this worth it?
Yeah, because like I said, even if you don't sell in those jurisdictions, once you sign up for a sales tax account, they expect you to file that return, even
Yeah.
if it's nothing but zeros.
Yep.
So here you are spending like 3 days of your week just sitting around punching in sales tax submissions for zero. Uh, and that's why like a lot of people hit me up. Hey, won't you go over to this town and do this event? Go to this town and do this event. Until it becomes a regular occurrence, I'm not setting up any more sales tax accounts because I've done got hit with that. Because I set one up for a city that I just did an event in, and then that was just that one event. But then now I've got to go in and I've got to file every month whether I make a sale there or not a zero report for sales
See, that
tax, and
that's
that gets to be
where
a pain.
that's where I appreciate at least the state of Minnesota, is that they collect all sales tax through one location. So I don't have to submit with city, state, county. I submit to the state, and they also collect county and city. And if I happen to have done a show in another area, I can add that during that, and it's just quarterly, so it's 4 times a year. I can add that one for that period in the same way, so it's easier within my state. Um,
Yeah.
so I've done that. I go to a show up at the Twin Cities or something. It's not difficult to add that within state. And as I said before, different states, some of them have a threshold, a certain dollar amount or number of transactions. So as a hobbyist or a small business crafter, you could do it to a point, but you still have to track if you're getting up to that point, and then you do come into
Yeah.
that threshold. So, and hopefully at that point, maybe you're doing enough of it, you can hire an accountant to help you out. But there you are. You're paying you're paying money to someone to help you manage your business. You just kind of have to factor that into your costs somehow.
Well, luckily now that I've got QuickBooks, it adds sales tax to everything for me. It tracks it. It keeps up with how much I owe. All I have to do at the end of the month is go in there and click on the sales tax submission button, and it'll give me the amounts. I go to the state's portal, type in those amounts. Typically, they'll give me an early payment discount or whatever for it, and then I make a payment, and I put the payment amount in QuickBooks, and it zeroes that out for me, and we're off to the next month. But the hardest thing that I had a problem with was just remembering that before the 10th of every month, you've got to file last month's sales tax. And if you forget and do it on the 11th, that's a $50 like
Mm.
penalty. And sometimes it's a $50 penalty on $25 because,
They
I don't do as much sales tax stuff as like with Etsy or whatever.
Yeah, the here they're pretty good about sending out reminders. They say, "Hey, reminder that quarterly sales tax is due on the 15th." So like for July, they're due. I think it's on the 20th. And they do give you a grace period that if you, I think basically if you pay it before they send the naughty letter within like 10 days, they're gonna forgive you. So they're a little bit forgiving up here on that at least. But they're pretty good about sending out multiple reminders, and or if you missed it, they're like, hey, by the way, you didn't submit. So
Yeah, it's like I said, being that I'm my bookkeeper, my editor, my photographer, my business manager, my lawyer. I mean, I do all the stuff. It can get crazy, but I've got QuickBooks set up to send me email reminders of what I need to do and when I need to do it and stuff.
mhm.
Because I'll forget what day of the month it is and just not file something. So that's why I definitely would recommend getting a software. When you start, when you start getting into that kind of stuff, you need to get a software to help manage it. Let me give you a water.
Yeah, yeah, it's frustrating because QuickBooks. I know there was some conversation earlier about subscription models for software, and unfortunately, that's where a lot of them are going these days. Um, so as a hobbyist, that's difficult. But as you as your business gets more complex, that cost of that software is much easier to justify because you will spend hours trying to keep track of
Mm-hmm.
that. Whereas $30 a month will you know probably pay for itself in saved time.
Oh,
You can
it does absolutely.
you know
Because
you can make that up
when I
easy in
go
the
to
shop.
when I go to buy equipment or whatever, I get my receipt, I take a picture of it, I scan it into the app. The app's tied into my bank account. It watches for a transaction to come through. It matches it to the ticket that I took a picture of. It creates an expense, and most of the time, depending on where it is and what's on the receipt, it'll automatically have it coded, whether it's materials, tools, software, whatever it is. And all I've got to do is go in there and review it and hit confirm, and it files it away. So, and I usually sit down about 2 or 3 times a week and just go through there and code stuff. Like Etsy ties directly into QuickBooks, so you don't have to touch that. Like it just communicates. QuickBooks and Etsy communicates, and so it codes it and keeps all that stuff straight and shows how much taxes you've paid. And another thing too is all of your marketing expenses technically with Etsy is a write off because it's marketing. So once you get into being an actual business, that actually will help because at the end of the year, the money you spent on that marketing, you don't necessarily have to count as income.
Mhm.
So it's a that's a whole other rabbit hole. Like like you could go for days talking about all that kind of stuff. But
Mhm.
it is definitely worth the 30 something dollars that I pay. And also I get a credit card reader so that when I'm at events I can take credit cards. It automatically charges sales tax based on the GPS of the mobile device. It's very, very cool. Did you fix your light? So you know they're messing with your little app.
Hey, I'm here. I'm here to help.
Well, thanks there, Lance. Appreciate you. But, but yeah, I'm trying to do a couple more little uh, videos, and I think one of them is going to be definitely the equipment that I use as far as the channel goes for YouTube and making videos and just content creation, the cameras and the equipment, what goes into it. But I think another one needs to be what to expect when your business grows to the point where you got to keep your books. Because there's a lot of things that I didn't even think about. Because, May has her own website and they do their own sales. Now they have an accountant also, but their accountant, because of him having to file in all these different states, you would not want to know the charge that he charges them for keeping up with those sales tax accounts. And so that's something that you have to consider is when you start doing sales through your website. Now that's on you. So I'm going to keep letting other people do the heavy lifting for me, even if they take part of my profit. Because if I can make 30% less profit, but do like 100% less of that work, that's a win. So I'll take it. You know what I mean? And that's what keeps those places in business.
Yeah, I back when I was doing property management and had a couple of rentals that I was managing my own, or I was buying and owning. I had to work with an accountant, and that was not a cheap bill.
Mm-mm.
Tax time and CRP notifications and all that stuff. So much so that it made me learn all the stuff I needed to do, so I didn't need them. But then now I was on the hook for anything tax liability as far as screwing up those forms. But um, when you need them, hopefully you've got the income to cover them. If not, you got to rethink whether you need that business or not, like you said. So
Yeah. But another little tip for you, and that's just sound insider information, but when somebody hosts a big event where there's going to be like hundreds of vendors, I don't know if you guys know it or not, but typically the city in which they're hosted in requests a list of all the businesses represented, and they compare that to their sales tax records to make sure that those folks are paying sales tax for that event. And if you're not, you'll get a nasty gram. And they also typically, when it's a really big event like that, the state gets a copy of it to make sure that they get their taxes. Because
mhm.
if they don't, everybody just quit doing it. So that's something that you got to keep in mind too. Because like I just got hit pretty hard on sales tax because June was the Peach Jam week, and I actually did pretty decent at Peach Jam, and you could tell it when I did my sales tax.
Yeah, that's a thing here too, that they either require you to submit your tax ID, or they make you fill out a form on the side. They have like I forget what they call it, like a cottage sales tax form kind of thing, cottage industry sales tax form. And
Mm-hmm.
so then that gets filed with the state, and then the state definitely follows up with you. So a lot of the event or coordinators, they'll require that before you even set up. So you want to do it on the up and up. You want to do it right. So you want to plan for that. It's if you're doing if you're just doing one or two a year, it's probably okay to way to do it if that's how they allow you to. Um, but if you're more serious about doing this and you're doing them regularly, it's worth it to get your own, file with your state or your county, city, however you have to. Just do it regularly. Usually, there's also some other benefits to that, with some vendors and things, but kind of
Yep.
depends the level of your business.
Yep. Well, we have run over like 15 minutes over, guys.
We have.
So, last call, so to speak. Oh, there's one. Says there is a state law here in Wisconsin. We have to provide our number for all the events. Doing it right, still have some organizers not requiring that form to get caught up by the state eventually. Where the cat's hanging out. Uh, to be honest with you, there's no telling. They probably been slipping around behind me all night. They like laying outside when it's dark like this, and they think that I parked my boat right here by the front of the shop. I got the cover on it, and they think that the boat is like a cat canopy now. So they've been just lounging underneath it. Uh, Typically by this time, Fluffy's laying over there by the door trying to go to sleep. So I'm not real sure where they are, but I'm sure they'll be coming in a minute.
Yeah, our tax system is complicated, and it's complicated by every state having their own differences,
Mm-hmm.
and then add in also some cities and such. So, uh, yeah, uh, it would be great if the U.S. could figure out a far simpler tax system. I would
Oh,
be
y'all
happy to
talked that up.
unemploy. I would be happy to unemploy a lot of IRS and I mean, I'm not saying that we shouldn't have tax. You know, that's part of a society, but it is way too complex, and it does prevent some people from um, getting into small business, and it can. I mean, it can even complicate just. There's just crazy ways. You don't even have to be in business to get in trouble with taxes. Um, it's frustrating, but it's something. Unfortunately, as you're trying to get started, you got to kind of get a handle on.
Well, and here's my complaint: is this? I don't know if it's true everywhere, but the state of Alabama has terrible websites. I just paid my sales tax a few days ago, and when I hit the submit payment button, nothing happened. So I waited for like 3 or 4 minutes because typically it's like instant. I get an email saying payment submitted to Alabama or IRS or whatever your tax, whatever. I got nothing. So I'm like, well, maybe my internet hiccuped. So I hit submit payment button again. All right. Well, this time I get an email. It says your payment has been submitted. So I'm like, okay, cool. That way I know I'm not going to be late. And so went to bed, woke up next morning, and I got another email. Said your payment has been submitted. So I paid my local tax twice. Luckily for me, I now have a credit on my local tax.
Mm-hmm.
So I was afraid that it was just gone, but I actually have a credit on my tax account now. But that ain't helping my bank account none.
Yeah,
But
it was on your busiest month, huh?
yeah, yeah, it hurt.
Yep. Yep.
Well, I wouldn't say my busiest month, because like I said, Clayton's hits me pretty hard sometimes. Like they've sent me 4 orders for stove cover and cutting board this week. So they hit me pretty hard right now. But yeah, June, as far as events goes, June's usually my biggest event month. But there again, I've got September and October this year. I'm gonna be doing events as well. So it we'll see. Hopefully it'll get better. But anyway, I guess we need to scratch it out. But y'all talked Fluffy up. She's over there eating and drinking now. You can probably hear her over there crunching on her kibble. But yeah, next Sunday, guys, I'll probably be doing a few teasers for the MOPA, assuming that it shows up on time and it arrives when it's supposed to. But hopefully that'll be something I'll be working on this week. And I've got a couple of other things in the pipe with the 3D printer and the other machine that we can't discuss right now. But we'll have some content coming pretty soon. Hopefully it'll be something pretty cool. And if you hadn't already, go check out the other channel over there at the Clackleys, CLACKLEYS. That's Brandy and I's new channel. Still really small, and to be honest with you, I don't have a whole lot of time to do a lot with it right now, but it's going to be for non-shop related content. So I think it would be something that, maybe y'all would like. So we'll see how that goes. But let me see if I can get that to go. But anyway, if you hadn't already, go hit the subscribe over there as well. And we'll see y'all next week, I guess. Steve, how about it?
Yeah, it's gonna be. I'm gonna be trying to, like I said, doing a little more with the Laser Pecker 5, showing off some of the other features a little more in depth. I do have another project video that I'm hopefully gonna finish up. I do have to be on the road for part of this week, so I'll be out of the shop. But we'll see if I can get some surprise content in, even with that. But I will be back home mid-weekend. I'll definitely be back here next Sunday. And yeah, we'll be hopefully cooler weather, hopefully calmer weather for everyone. I know Mark was dealing with some storms tonight, it looked like in the chat as well. So hopefully everybody's staying safe, and we'll see you. We'll see you where. Oh, and Jeff says hi.
Well, mine's over there at the door where she's supposed to be. I figured she would be, but we're not picking her up. Look, you got a cattail in the video.
I did.
I had that during one of my videos I was trying to make yesterday.
Yeah. Brian,
But
not sure if I'm doing. I'm going to try to make it up to the expo. I don't know if I'll be doing demos again like I was last year or not. But yeah, that's coming up. That's going to come up faster. It's October 12th at the Minnesota State Fair this year. So it was a lot of fun last year, but just got to see if it'll fit in.
there's the link right there. Whoever was asking. Yeah, now y'all know why I go by Clack, right? Because it's hard to understand that name and spell it with my accent. So there you go. But that's the other thing. So y'all check it out. But did you lose your cattail?
I was just making sure the other one wasn't following them up here.
All right. Well, good night, guys, and y'all be safe.